Good evening. Good evening. Good evening. Good evening. Welcome to another edition of Life 2. It's December the 22nd December 2022. Operator, if you can pull the. Yes, thanks. It's the 22nd day of December. And I just want to say a special welcome to each and every one of you. I see right away a number of persons have logged in. If I could have given a prize for the first person, I would give it to Jennifer Albert. Jennifer Albert, special good night to you. Special good night to you. Winston Henry, followed by Margaret Daly Hope, Patricia Sano. Special good evening to each and every one of you. Usual, as usual, you can go ahead and share the live. Just let us take a moment to share the live. We have a packed program this evening. And good night, George N. I don't know what the N stands for. But good night to you, same way. Just go ahead and share the live. Share the live so that started. My guest is already backstage, and this should be our final program for the year. I'm happy to see so many of you tuned in. Karen Black, June Cameron, the folks from Brooklyn, New York, folks from Florida. Special good evening to you. From Linden. Do we have anyone from Linden here as yet? Good night, Miss Pansy Fields. Good night to you. Donna Daly, good night. Season greetings to you and your family as well. Folks, what we want to do tonight is to, since it's the final program for the year, we want to analyze, into a little, analysis of what would have occurred under this PPP regime over the last 12 months. We're in the final month, December 22nd, and so we want to flashback, if I can say that. A special good night to you, Miss Jennifer Albert. Season greetings to you as well. Keisha Benedict, Region 9 in the house. Region 9, a wonderful place. The Rupununi, no place like the Rupununi. I always say that to anybody who's never been to the Rupununi. You must visit the Rupununi. Study, the US and the islands and Suriname and Venezuela and Brazil. Guyana is a wonderful place, a beautiful country. And, we should first explore and see what Guyana has to offer. The Rupununi, wonderful people, wonderful landscape. So I would want to encourage all of us here to take a trip with your family down to the Rupununi. Might be great during the Christmas season to take a little outing in Rupununi. My advice to you is to, when you're going in, at least you go by bus so that you can really experience, all that has to offer along the trail there in Rupununi. I've been there a number of times. I've been to several communities in the north, in South Central and South Rupununi. I've been fortunate enough as a politician to visit some of these wonderful places in Guyana. To you, Good night to you, Ramlochan Sahadio. Leon Blair, watching from Linden. Good night to the Blair's family from Linden. I know a Blair in school with me at President's College. I believe he's now in the army. He's an army officer. Um, we went to school together. Wonderful fellow, very disciplined. So I'm assuming that the people from Linden are of that background, disciplined people. But you know what they say, you don't want to get them upset. Linden can very well set the stage for the entire country. So we have a number of topics to discuss. And so I just want to make this last pitch to you to share the live on your Facebook, your WhatsApp contact, uh, all the other social media platform. If you can just go ahead and share the live so that we can reach that magic number so that we can begin the program tonight. It's our final program. And so we want to thank each and every one of you who have been tuning in over the last few weeks since we would have restarted this program. And I can promise you, come next year, we will improve on it. There are a number of things which I want to improve. I want to still look at that call-in segment. I want to also look at specific focus at certain villages. And so it means, therefore, that a lot of groundwork we've got to do a lot of groundwork there, our councillors, our members of parliament, so that the information can come forward and so we can agitate for change in those communities, agitate for development in those communities, same way. And so I want to get straight into tonight's program, and I just want to quickly touch on an issue. Uh, not an issue exactly, but we can call it an issue in the housing area within Region 2. Now, I would have visited the housing project on the Neming area, and the housing minister has been making some claims. I see the Prime Minister also has been making claims. The housing minister's claimed somewhere between 80 to 20,000 house lots have been distributed over the last 2.5 years. And while the Prime Minister has made the claim just recently in his response to the group that would have been exposing the discrimination in Guyana, that group in the U.S. who is scheduled to meet with the Black Caucus in the U.S. And in his response, he claimed that 5,000, not 50% of the 11,000 house lots that were distributed were Afro-Guyanese. So he made that claim, claiming that it's 11,000. And Susan Rodriguez just recently in a Facebook post said that 8,000 received house lots, and that represented 44% of the total house lots distributed. Now, if you do the math on that, it means that 100% would be somewhere around 18,000, 19,000. And so I asked Susan on her post, which is it really? Her response was very disrespectful, the usual PPP rhetoric that APNO, parliamentarians don't know to do mathematics, and she went off on. So I thanked her. She maintained her claim that it was about 20,000, and you can go and check the post. It's under her post where I responded, and I responded by saying, thank you Susan, operator, you can pull up the slide. I responded thanking the minister for her response. And I told her that, this is not a question of math, but I can see that the members of parliament or the ministers of the government have a problem with comprehension, because I merely asked which is on the post and see. I would have asked her if it's 11,000 or is it 20,000 house lots. And, somehow comprehension is a more strong subject. And so I responded there by saying that, and I asked her to, while she's at it, she can post on the ministry's website all the names, all the recipients of house lots to justify that claim of 20,000. Surely the minister cannot and will not post those names, because that obviously will open a can of worms. The first thing that would be exposed, that is that nowhere close to 20,000 house lots would have been delivered to the public. That is the first thing. And then there are other areas that we can explore there. So surely the government will not do that. They do not believe in transparency. They do not believe in accountability. And so I am certain that that would have been the last response and the only response from the Minister of Housing. We've got to be very careful with this propaganda. The PPP is very, very skillful. They learn the art, according to Kemraj Ramjatan, who came from the belly of the beast. He knows the PPP inside out, and they're the masters of propaganda. So we have to be very, very careful when we listen to anything that comes out of the mouths of the ministers of government, and especially Vice President Jagdeo. Recently he would have made all sorts of statements that I think are far from the truth. I noticed him attacking the mayor and city hall just after the arrest and charging of the mayor. He made all sorts of accusations that city hall, they can't pour money into city hall to take care of the township, because city hall doesn't have accountability and any transparency there. And he went off, and the mayor rightfully responded by saying, related it. City hall accounts was audited, and so just release the audit to show where the mayor or the councillors would have been facing any sort of illegal act. And certainly they cannot, he will not put that audit out there. The statement was merely one for propaganda and one for their supporters to carry to the streets. But back to Susan Rodriguez and this farce that would have delivered 20,000 house lots. First off, if you speak with Annette Ferguson, who was the last minister in our government, she would tell you that there were a few thousands of house lots there ready to be disbursed, when the APNU AFC left government. So to say that the first 5,000-6,000 house lots more than likely were already on the cards, they're ready to be delivered. So you cannot take credit. You cannot take credit for that. And I highly doubt that the other 10,000 plus that they're delayed. I asked this question. I asked the minister this question. I said, can you tell us how many of those house lots or the housing areas are prepared, or the housing areas where these house lots, the claim is being made that these house lots would have been given out? And where I'm standing there on the screen is one such area. That's on the Neming sandpit area. That's a new phase in Region 2. Now they would have claimed to have given out thousands of lots there, thousands, maybe 1,000. I have to get the numbers from the minister. And so I wanted the public to see there's no possibility. And operator, you can go to just flip to the next slide where you see everything there. No, not back up to the other, back up the slide before the one that you had before. Yes. Now this area isn't prepared. There are 3 contractors working there. They are now preparing the area. Operator, if you can show where the drains are now being prepared. The road is not in as yet. And these works have just begun after 2.5 years. And it is that in 5 years' time, that is the main access road. You would have to go back. And so yes, operator, you can go back. You can go back maybe 2 slides or so. If it's there, maybe it's eliminated. Now, you can see from the picture there that there is no way that someone that was given a house lot there can go on that area. The soil, even the plot in a proper condition. There isn't any drainage. There aren't any roads there. Water, land, the infrastructure, the general infrastructure, they merely clear the lands. And so what they're doing to fool the Guyanese public is to, before they even clear these lands, give out lots. And so we will await the confusion that will occur. I guarantee you that there will be a lot of confusion when people are actually ready, is actually ready to be occupied there. You will find a number of having the same lots and all sorts of confusion happening there. I guarantee you. But this is the PPP proposal, is what they want to fool the Guyanese public with. And we've got vigilant and take anything with a pinch of salt that comes out from their mouth. Now, if you look at the access road, and operator, quickly, I want to bring on my guest. If we flip to the next slide, which is the access road, the main access road there, the main access road. Now, we're happy, the residents are happy that we have been progressing on this road. This is the main access road to the same area, but you have persons living there, a big housing scheme there for over 10, maybe 15 years. And this has been a total, and persons would have actually had to protest several times over the last 2.5 years. I would have been a part of that protest, and a number of our MP would have been there around the same time that Boston was executed a year ago. I can recall that a number of our MPs were there at that time. You, in this country, to get certain things done, you have to protest, you have to fight, you have to expose this PPP government before you can get anything done. And when they begin to do this project, they come back and they have a nice time on PR, and they try to say, we're doing this for everybody and we're not discriminating and all sorts of things. But they saying that you had to beat them with a stick and expose them and embarrass to get it done. And so I will keep a close eye. I have been keeping a close eye on all of our projects. I trust that next year our councillors in Region 2 and across the country will step it up a notch and step up to the task at hand and aid the MPs MPs and councillors together will aid the leader of the opposition and the party as a whole to hold the PPP accountable. At this point, I want to bring on my guest. He's no stranger to this program, and he's no stranger to region number 2. And so I want to welcome Comrade Elson Low, a young economist, vibrant, young person, young member of the People's National Congress Reform, and he is the economic advisor, young economic advisor to the leader of the opposition. Good night, Elson.
Good night, good night. Always good to be on. Always fun. I thought it was very interesting the insights you're pointing out there around housing, which is a major issue here in Guyana. We've seen really, especially in urban areas, such a sharp expansion in cost of housing. It's been one of the greatest areas of concern, I would say, with rents around Georgetown tripling in only a few years. So that is a very serious area of discussion, and I think the PPP's efforts in housing are completely misunderstand the scale of the problem. And when they put down these types of housing schemes where you don't have proper access, roads, water, and utilities, and so on, of course, we had a policy of not handing out house lots unless those basic infrastructure elements were present. If they're going to be handing these out as out, those things being present, then it's not really going to aid in people getting housing, which is the ultimate aim of a housing policy. We have to remind people the aim of a housing policy is not house lots, it's housing. And so just literally giving people a house lot when they cannot actually live there is not solving the problem. That's the first thing
Yeah,
to say.
precisely, precisely. So, Elson, I'm happy that you mentioned that because the leader of the opposition throughout the year has been saying to the public that the PPP has no land use policy. So I'd want to start there. You have to begin to with a land use policy to determine that, look, this area will be for agriculture, this in this specific whether it's crops, the kind of livestock, whatever. This area can be for housing. This area would be for the manufacturing sector, and so you have to work out a land use policy before we even begin to talk about the housing policy. You have to consider factors like global warming and the
Yeah.
effects of it, flooding, etc. And so this administration seems to be at sea when it comes to the dealing with the whole issue of housing and land use policy in general.
Yeah, absolutely. We and the opposition here have had discussions around some of these questions, whether it is climate change and its impact on housing, whether it is the amount of houses, the housing that is going to be required in Guyana as the population grows. Of course, we anticipate there will also be migration into the country, so we have to account for all of those things when you're crafting your housing policy. And we have come up with robust ideas and solutions that we will roll out as time goes on regarding this. So we are I think, assessing the issue, assessing the oil and gas factors, because that's going to really affect any of these plans, and coming up with the appropriate land use policies. Now, PvP really is just kind of an a scattergun approach doing these things, which is why, as you're pointing out, you have house lots there without any basic infrastructure to support them. I would also point to the fact though that what you also observe with them is that as much as they are putting all this money in the budget for roads, where they're putting the roads and how they're approaching this tends to be, really again without a plan. Just imagine that Silica City, which is supposed to be a big development that they want to set up there, that's supposed to accommodate tens of thousands of people. But there's only one access road for Silk City. There's only one main road, which is the Temeri Road. and there's no other way for you to get from Silicon City to Georgetown or to Linden and so on. Much in the same way that to get into Diamond, you only had the East Bank Road. Now we all know the huge amount of traffic that was caused by there only being one way to access the Diamond Housing Scheme, which was a vast housing scheme. And so it seems that the PPP, first of all, that this is their mode of operation. They don't actually check to see whether or not this is the appropriate place to put a housing scheme and the appropriate mechanisms. And second of all, they don't seem to be willing to learn from their mistakes and to put in place the appropriate infrastructure and build your housing in around the infrastructure. Rather, they're going to put a whole city there with the Temeri Highway there, and then you're gonna have huge bottlenecks now in the Linden Mary area when people if people do indeed move to Silica City. Now I have not taken that idea particularly seriously because I don't see serious efforts to actually being made regarding it. But we have on our end serious ideas, serious efforts, a structured plan, and an idea of what is required to deal with housing. So it's a bit of a really unfortunate situation because I know a lot of Guyanese are suffering from the high cost of housing. I was talking to some young people and they said to get an apartment at a reasonable price, around Georgetown area, and so you gotta go till up the East Coast or till down the East Bank to get anything that's a decent price. And you're going to start to see this effect in many of the urban areas as the oil and gas industry kicks into place. As you know, there's a
Yeah.
plan for shore bases in Region 2 or in the Region 2 area. And there's also plans for shore bases over in Berbice, that area. So anywhere where you see that kind of rapid development, you're going to see these types of extreme housing problems. That's the start. And the second part of it is the migration issue. And we know that there's going to be massive migration into the country. I'll leave you with one last interesting thought that might actually be impacting you quite a bit in Region 2, which is that there's reports that we may have tens of thousands of people that have come to Guyana from Venezuela over the course of the Venezuelan crisis. At least about 40,000, but there are reports that it might be as high as 90,000. Now, if the government is saying we want to give out 50,000 house lots, but you've already got 40,000 Venezuelans in the country, can you see
Yeah.
how that makes it seem like they have no idea of what is actually required to deal with the situation? It's almost as if they're calling a random number without having an actual sense of how to the scale of the problem. I just find that pretty funny.
Elson, I'm glad you mentioned the Venezuelans and the migration issue because um, we seem to know little or nothing when it comes to that issue. We're not, hearing much. We know that there is mass migration. We see it every day. Regions like Region 2, Region 1,
Yep.
Region 9. You see a lot of Brazilians, Venezuelans, and other people from um, other
Yeah, man.
areas.
Last time I was in Region 2, I passed some school children, and the school children were speaking Spanish fluently, walking on the road. I said,
Yeah, yeah,
these
yeah.
gotta be some Venezuelan school children.
So, I say sometimes we might find ourselves being the minority in this country. By the time we catch ourselves, we might be the minority.
Yeah, I mean,
We joking about it, but it's something very, very serious. We have a real issue still ongoing with Venezuela, and so these things have to be treated, with as being very, very important. These are
yeah,
very, very important matters. You're hardly hearing anything from the Foreign Affairs Minister. Frankly speaking, I believe he's very incompetent. I don't know what he has done other than being a disaster in the last 2.5 years. I don't believe we ever had a disaster of that magnitude for foreign affairs minister. I mean, Caroline Rodriguez, I would have been way better. I think she was very green when she took the position, but I think I would give her a notch above him. We had people within the PNC like Carl Greenidge and others who are heavyweights,
Heavyweights,
it's within in that ministry. Aubrey
actually
Norton,
interesting.
leader of the opposition himself, would have played a senior role, would have functioned in a senior capacity in
Yes,
foreign affairs.
I believe
So
Clement Rowe. He was foreign affairs
yes,
minister.
yes, yes. I think I can
I'm
recall.
not, I'm not aware of
Clement.
what his qualifications are. I know that at one point he may have. I don't know if it's janitorial services for Freedom House. I can be corrected if I'm misinformed. I don't know if that's what he used to do. I heard that he
Clement
was.
Roy is a special character.
It could be that maybe he wasn't a janitor there. I mean, it could be, but that's what
I
I was made aware of.
always had misfits. The PPP, for as long as I know, you see, you and I came up under the PPP government, and for that time, they had a lot of misfits in that position. But this fellow, Utah, I think he's the worst.
Mhm.
I have seen. He's always at sea. We could recall the Taiwan issue. There are a number of issues. A
Well,
number. Of,
one recently that I really concerned me is you saw the award of the natural gas electricity plant to
uh,
a Venezuelan company. And on the one hand, that must alarm most Guyanese as there's a serious national security risk there. But on the other, I cannot understand that the Ministry of Foreign Affairs was not aware, did not point out, did not make it clear to the government that this is an issue that we probably need to deal with. I can't imagine that the Minister of Foreign Affairs would allow the government to go ahead with signing such a major contract with a Venezuelan company, given what is going on.
yeah,
Uh,
yeah,
uh, that
yeah,
was a surprise to me. That's a surprise to me.
yeah. Most definitely, as I said before, we have a long-standing territorial issue with Venezuela, and to for us to go ahead and just sign away a contract, a huge contract, or any contract
Yeah.
with which could be perceived a hostile neighbor at times. I'm not certain that that is in the best interest of the Guyanese people. I don't know what consideration was given. Um, the government is quite silent on it. Not a word actually on it. It's as if it's a national secret. But as
Yeah,
time,
well, I mean, as much as we would hope that the company would be able to act with integrity and so on, I think that we as a nation must take seriously these things because maybe there'll be some executive in the future who maybe pressured by the Venezuelan government to sabotage that plant.
yes,
That's
yeah, precisely, and then you have to examine what are the terms in the contract,
yeah,
because they can very well take a position, shut down the plant, whatever it is, sabotage it in whatever
exactly.
way. You will have Venezuelan operatives can enter your country under the guise of
Yep,
working with this
yep,
company and be well placed, and
yep.
so it is not in our best interest to go ahead with an agreement
Yeah.
like this. Is not something that the opposition will agree to. It's not something that we
And
will
to
be
give your
willing
viewers,
to.
to give your viewers some perspective on this, it's almost as if the Hoover Dam is a big dam in the U.S., one of the main hydroelectric plants. It's as if the U.S. allowed Russia to come in and build the big dam that is fueling the entire industries and electricity in the whole area in an entire part of the country.
Yeah,
There's no way that the U.S. would allow Russia to come in and build something like that. There's
yeah,
no way, on the flip side, that Russia would allow the US to come in and build something like that because
absolutely.
there'd be some serious concerns. And in fact, the US has an agency that is dedicated to monitoring these things and raising red flags when they see these types of transactions that could harm the nation. I believe, in fact, that a Middle Eastern company was trying to buy a port and they stopped them from buying that port because they said this might actually interrupt the flow of goods into the country and cause serious problems if we have a dispute with this country. Now we already have a dispute with Venezuela.
A long one too. A
Yeah,
long one dating back even pre-independence, a very very long time, going back to 1899 and even beyond that. Because when you
yes,
talk about 1899, is just when we got that final agreement.
exactly,
And so
exactly.
it's a long history, and so
Yeah.
certainly
So
when we
for a foreign ministry to miss this or not to advise against this is, I think, for a foreign affairs ministry, I think that's astonishing. I think it's
well,
utterly.
I see that point you're making, but I wouldn't put it past Jack Dio having the final say, because you would recall that I think it was just around 2015, 2014, late 2014, where he said that he was willing to make some concession to Venezuela to give them some area, some passage
Yeah,
through the Orinoco area, the Orinoco River. So he
passage to
was
the
willing,
water.
he was willing to do that for God
Yeah.
knows what. For God knows what. We don't know what was the deal on the table. How could you go out to say that you were willing to do this? For what reason?
And
For
I
what
would
reason?
one thing I would help your viewers to see here is if Venezuela were able to get a chunk of Guyana's territory and a passage to the water, as was indicated by Jaguar back then, that would have meant that they could claim more offshore acreage. And what is offshore? The oil fields.
Precisely.
Yeah, this is the type of nonsense that we've seen in the past from the PvP. And so to see them, willing to do this again with the Venezuelan company, you're quite right to say that this, indicates that these guys are playing it very loose with national patrimony.
Yeah, and it might very well be for personal gains. I wouldn't put it past. We had that Sugate scandal, and we might get to that later in the program. But the utterances by Sue and what we saw in that video was very telling, and so you could relate that easily to what is happening with this Venezuelan, the approval of this Venezuelan company. Elson, I I know time is running. I want to touch on the last press conference by the leader of the opposition. It was a very excellent press conference. It essentially was a review of the year 2022 under the PPP, and it would have also afforded the leader of the opposition the opportunity to say to the public what the opposition would have been putting forward, our plans, our programs, our policies that we would have put forward to the people of Guyana. So the question here for the public tonight is, are you better off in 2022? The PVP in at the beginning of the year promised a whole host of things, and I just want to touch on the leader's statement. He said the PVP continues to fail the people of Guyana. 2 years plus of PVP rule has made it manifest that the PVP is incompetent, divisive, corrupt, and is making the lives of Guyanese worse by doling out the riches of this country to its elite, friends, families, favorites, while allocating crumbs to the people of Guyana. Elson, I I want us to have an in-depth discussion on this statement, and where are we? Where are we after 2.5 years of PPP rule? Where are we in 2022 after we have seen the biggest budget ever increase? Not only the biggest budget ever, because every budget is a little bigger than the other in for the last 10
Yeah,
years. So
yeah,
but this particular budget is the first oil budget, and it's about 50% larger. It is 50% larger than the previous year's budget, which was a big budget, by the way, which was a very big budget, by the way. And this is 50% larger. And that is only the budget. There were a number of supplementals that the
yeah.
PPP went back to Parliament. So, in
Supplemental.
addition to that 50% larger, I don't know if you did the math on it, but it might be going to 60% or a little over that by now, because they would have went back to Parliament at least 2 or 3 times, where they would have asked for more monies. Additionally, I saw just on the 15th of December, they would have withdrawn about 200 million, over 200 million US dollars from the natural resource fund. And for the folks who need to understand what the natural resource fund is, it's our oil money. And so, what are your thoughts on it, Elson?
Yeah, well, we have seen a budget that is around about 50% larger when you add in the supplementals. Remember, there were two supplementals last year that were also big. So when you work everything out, it's around about 50% larger. So massive, massive change in the budget. But I don't know, you'd have to ask your viewers, and I think your viewers right away can tell you. Doesn't feel like 50% more, you got 50% more from the government now, does it? Because that is supposed to you're supposed to feel something like that, such a big change to the economy. Even when you look at some of the raises to public servants, where you saw healthcare workers getting in some cases around about a 50% raise, something that we were calling for. We're calling for substantial raises all year. That is from January. So that is not from this budget, that's from the next budget. And so you cannot say that that 50% is attributed to this budget. You have to look at the 8% that they gave, which is tiny compared to this huge, huge increase in the budget. And then when you look at what was in the budget, folks, we have to always remember how we began this year and how the year progressed. And we began the year with a cost of living crisis, with high inflation, with food prices that were already going up. We had the flood yet last year, and that was already sending food prices up. And people were complaining at length at about how difficult it was in the market. And then after that, we then saw the war in Ukraine send prices through the roof even further. Food prices, you remember, wheat was up 40% at one point. Oil was, gasoline was through the roof. All of that was happening. And the government really put a very measly less than 1% towards cost of living mitigation at the beginning of the year. And then, in the course of this huge budget and these two further supplementals, it did not provide much else, any other real direct cost of living specific mitigation measures over the course of the year. So you ended up having two supplementals that did nothing to address what supplementals are supposed to do, which is address unexpected events like a war or something like that. And so what happened is you had a lot of money spent, but not a lot of money spent on the central issues of the day that were affecting Guyanese. And we've talked about this all year. We've called for the government to act over the course of the year, and the government has refused to do so. And so we kind of recognize as Guyanese that it is not that we had to suffer this year. It is not that it's difficult for everyone and therefore it must be difficult for us. Rather, it's that a deliberate choice was taken by the government to let Guyanese suffer. That is what happened. In fact, we've mentioned before that actually we saw the country get an additional $60 billion of oil revenue from the high oil price. And we've called for that money to be distributed in a fair way to households across Guyana. Now that works out to around about $300,000 per household. And I don't know about you. I don't know about your household. I don't know about the people that you interact with, but I would like to think that they could use it for 100,000, especially around Christmas time, to help them through all of these high prices.
Elson, thanks for that. I actually had that on the slide 7, operator, if you can pull it up. I was going to ask you about that, but maybe we can do no, go back up, 2 slides or so up. Um, yes, yes, there you have it. Now you would have said, and the opposition essentially is saying that all Guyanese have a right to expect more from the oil, and you were advocating, or the opposition rather is advocating, that from this excess money that
Yeah,
the they would have been getting because of the high price of oil, easily we could
yeah.
have introduced a windfall tax, and that would have given us, each household would have been able to get at least
Well, it is
$300,000.
two things. It is two things. The first is just from our existing PSA, the existing structures, we could have gotten, we have $300,000 per household sitting down in the bank
Already there,
already,
just from within the structure,
just from
the
within the.
framework of the contract.
So there is this $60 billion, which is about, sitting down, $60 billion sitting down there, that they have decided that they're just not going to use to help. Extra
Extra money that you didn't
unexpected.
cater for. You didn't cater for. This is an additional sum because of the high price of oil.
Yeah. So you'll recall that there was a time when in earlier in the year where oil was at nearly 150, 130,
Yes, one,
yeah,
yeah,
ridiculous
140
prices,
something. Yes.
in excess of 100 for most of the year. Now we had expected oil to be at 75, so that was a big gap between what actually happened and what we expected, and that's why we got this additional 60 billion. So that's sitting there. But we've also said that what we can do is we can have an additional, and when we say windfall tax, we mean a sliding scale royalty, so that when the oil price is above a certain level, when it reaches those ridiculous levels, the government captures a greater share. That is something that we said is an important thing to also consider. Now, what all of this, really means for you viewers in terms of your day to day, is that there was all of this extra cash there to help, and the government just decided that they have no interest in helping you with this extra cash. Instead, we saw $18 billion in the supplement, in the last supplemental budget, go towards miscellaneous roads and drainage. Now, folks, first of all, $18 billion towards roads and drainage is quite a lot of money. And second of all, you mean to tell me that you're going to allocate huge sums and not say which roads and which drains you're targeting? Just upgrade of roads and drains. That could mean anything. It could mean any roads. The second thing is, and again, we should really be alarmed by this, is that a supplemental budget is supposed to deal with unexpected emergency things. It is not supposed to deal with things that you could have predicted at the beginning of the year. Now, you mean to
Yeah.
tell me PUP did not know that you needed to upgrade roads and do drains at the beginning of the year? In Guyana, where it rains all the time, they didn't know that? I mean, this is ridiculous. So instead of the money going to you in a supplemental, instead of whether it is a cash payment, whether it is a payment to bring down prices in the market and so on. But let's say that it's a cash payment of the 300,000. Instead of that 300,000 going to you, the government put it towards this unclear, ambiguous upgrade of roads and drains. So you now don't even know what happened to that money. That is what is going on. The government is literally not spending the money where it's supposed to be spent, but sending it towards friends, family, and favorites.
And Elson, as we're on that topic, that is the way of this government. You can hardly get answers from them. If you look at the answers that the leader posed to Ejil when he said 2,000 roads, and leader asked him to name 25 roads in Linden, and he had to dance that dance to
The
get out, from that, and the thing I want to say too is that they have now withdrawn $126 billion from the oil front. Where exactly has that money gone? Where did it go? The act, when I read the act, and if you I encourage the public to read it, it tells you that the oil money, it lays out some specific criteria. Projects of national importance. If you have a natural disaster, or to fund projects in the area of green economy. Those are the areas, the specific areas in which the money is supposed to be spent. So, to our minds, there is no way that you can just lump this sum into budget support and then you use it, you put something like miscellaneous where we don't even know where the roads are, which roads, and you spend the money on that, or you claim that you have spent the money on that. Because in the case of the withdrawals from the contingency fund, which they come for every single time they go from, those are monies that would have already been spent. And as you highlighted, they're supposed to be urgent, and unforeseen.
Yeah. Yep.
So that is another factor. So if you're going to spend oil spent on projects of national importance, and then if you claim that you already spent it, then it had to be on some unforeseen, some natural disaster or something like that, and you have to come clearly
Yeah.
with that. But you don't get that from them in
Yeah,
the
well, that is it. The thing that was unforeseen is the escalation of the cost, living crisis caused of the war in Ukraine. Everybody in Guyana knew that you needed to upgrade the roads and you need to upgrade the drains. Everybody knew this. So they are using the supplemental budgets for the opposite of what it's supposed to be used for and letting people punish. Of course, we need we are going to help people understand what is going on because we don't want them to get away with robbing the people of what it is that they truly deserve. But we also, as the new year comes in, we have to recognize that they're going to try to keep doing this kind of nonsense. So we, as citizens across the country, have to put pressure on them to deliver what it is that they need to be delivering, rather than them directing all these funds towards the friends, family, and favorites. And a lot of these infrastructure contracts, it is easy for you to put it towards one of your friends or so on, and then you get a kickback, which is your bribe. You give them the contract, and they give you a cut from the contract, and so that's how they're able to steal the money. That is, I think, really an area of concern, and
yeah,
citizens must pay close
and
attention to.
also people need to understand that they are the losers when you have rampant corruption, because instead of getting a quality
Yeah,
the project done according to specifications, according to how it's supposed to be done, and in the interest of the people, roads, bridges, schools, hospitals, whatever
yeah,
the project is, you are the losers. We are the losers due to corruption, because once a portion of that money has to go into someone's pocket, then there wouldn't be the level of scrutiny on that project, first of all. And then secondly, the contractor will already tell himself, look, I don't give you money, I don't give you bribe money,
yeah, well,
see how I could cut around this thing, use something outside of the specification,
yeah.
don't do this part of it. And that is how it goes. And we have seen this story too many times when the PPP is in government. Elson, if the operator, if we can go back the slide just. So I want to compare, we're looking at 2022, and we want to look at the APNU people-centered approach versus the People's Progressive Party incompetence. Now, I have laid out a number of points there on our plan, our policy, what we would have done, what we would have been advocating for in 2020, before 2022, a comprehensive anti-poverty plan. The leader was on a program last night on Freddie and what's his name program. And he said in no uncertain terms that to deal with the problem, the core problem of Guyana, one of the key things you have to do is to have a comprehensive anti-poverty plan, because once you have people in poverty, there will always be certain kinds of issues, certain kinds of problems, especially in the context of Guyana, where you have different races, different groups, different religions. And when you have a government who appears to be favoring one group over the other, you will have these kind of problems. And so if you have a comprehensive anti-poverty plan, which is fair and transparent, then half of the problems of this country would have been solved. And so that is where the APNU AFC wants to take this country. We want all of our people to rise above that poverty level, to live that good life that we know we all can live. Elson, your thoughts on that?
Yes, well, listen, the what I find to be something that we really want viewers to get a sense of, to understand, to really internalize is, we are not talking about pie in the sky. Oh, if only these are some idealistic goals we have. We are talking about things that could already be implemented with this much larger budget to eradicate poverty in this country, to move the businesses in this country forward and grow them, to help the average Guyanese deal with the cost of living crisis. These are things that can already be afforded. This country is a wealthy country. It's a rich country. The PUP wants you to believe that it is not rich so that they can collect the money and cart it off and have their fun with the money. That is what is going on. And so when they give you a measly 8% increase, but the budget increased 50%, what they were supposed to give you was a 50% increase.
Pull up the slide, operator. We we, we were pushing for a
At least
25 plus
25%
percent across
across,
the board. Now they
and
give,
that
I
is at
had
least.
that comparison. They give that 8% increase with some adjustments under pressure from the opposition and public pressure. Public
Absolutely.
pressure.
We've been calling for this all year long. We were saying there needs to be more substantial increases. We said
And
at least 25% because we had looked at the increase in the price of food in the last couple of years. And we said that food prices having gone up by as much as 25%. In order for
yeah,
people just to keep up with the painful cost of living, with the fact that at the market, all of these prices are through the roof, you had to give them a 25% increase. But these folks with the measly 8% probably won't even match the inflation this year.
yeah. Definitely, definitely. And it's unfortunate that teachers who are the molders of the nation, they got no adjustments. Elson, we as an opposition will continue to represent them, continue to fight for them, and we trust that over the course of the next few months, the government will announce something
Well, sure.
to.
What I would tell you is this: if the government does not announce these types of substantial raises for teachers that they really deserve and they should get, then within the bounds of the law, the teachers need to strike. This is craziness.
Yeah,
This unbelievable. And again, we want viewers to understand this is a rich country. You know how much this country grew by this year? 60%. There are few countries in the history of the world that have grown at 60% in 1 year. That is
yeah,
like
yeah.
equivalent to the entire growth over the entire 23 years they were in office.
I
It's
I
like all about
recall
one.
I recall the PPP boasting about a 3% growth. In fact, I didn't think they attained 3%, a 2.5, 2.8%
Yeah. And
growth.
they were, oh, this is a big thing. Now it's grown by
Yeah,
60%. You
we
know,
came in, the economy grew.
we had a very consistent
We
5%.
had,
So
yeah, about
back and forth.
5%. So
Yeah,
at least
that's how
higher.
the oil kicks in, when the oil kicks in is
Yeah,
when you see the
yeah,
big growth. And as
yeah,
a result of it, the country's become wealthy in a short space of time. I'll tell you viewers, really what the problem is the PUP is facing. they intend to run, in a way, a scam where they say, oh, there's no money while they steal the money on the one side. But the country has gotten so rich so fast that no everybody can see what's going on. You know?
With social media, you see the PPP continues to forget.
Yeah,
They get away with a lot of these things years ago, with all these propaganda and all these talk,
yeah, yeah.
um, you know, and they do it. They still do it in a lot of these rural areas where social media, well, I wouldn't say social media don't have a presence there, but maybe the education level and the focus might not be so much on these. Me and you talk example on a program, but those young people looking at all sorts of other things that are not beneficial, and so they go into these areas until now and they try to pass these things off, oh, we get a little bit of money and we try in, and we give you a 25,000 and you should be happy. um
I mean,
Before
but
I forget, operator, if you can play that video for me. This typically talking about. Typically. Now, the PPP, while they were in opposition, claimed that we had, I'm just branching off a little, but it's related, closely related. They said that we, APNU, introduced 200 taxes. They're yet to name them. And they removed these 200 taxes. So now, Guyanese must be grateful. Each household, Irfan just said it just recently, each household has benefited from $180,000. My question to the public: have you benefited from $180,000? I'm certain that you would like to have $180,000 right now at Christmas time, so that you can get that special meal on your table, turkey or whatever you want, or buy that brand new refrigerator, bed, or the expensive curtains, whatever you want or whatever you desire. I'm certain that people would have liked, but this is the kind of propaganda, the kind of lies, the kind of outright lies that it feed the Guyanese people. Operator, if you can pull up that video, it's just a
The
minute or
average
so.
growth rate
Play
of
it.
tax from 2016 to 2019 as a result of the 200 plus taxes was around 40%. If you apply this 40% to our 2019 tax figure, then compare that amount to what was collected, it becomes evident that removing the 200 plus burdensome tax measures has saved the people around $31.4 billion in taxes at the household level. This meant that roughly $180,000 per family was saved through the removal of these taxes. Notwithstanding all of this, we have
He can
had
pull
many
it down.
challenges.
He can pull it down, operator. Now, you understand what Irfan is saying there? The
there's a
lies that these fellas tell the people
there's a
with a
couple
straight
ways
face.
there's a couple ways that we gotta break this down for you people to help you to understand just how ridiculous it is. The first thing is, and let's suppose that they did indeed give 180,000 to each household. I just mentioned that there's 300,000 excess funds. So you have to ask them first things first, where's my 120,000 that is supposed to be there? That's the first thing. Even if the second thing is, now they're saying that, oh, these are taxes that were removed. But do we know that this actually benefited households or did it benefit businesses? Because you can remove a tax and a business cannot pass that on to consumers. That is something that has
Yes.
historically been a problem with the trickle down economics, where you remove all these taxes and you give all businesses these benefits, but average people don't necessarily feel those benefits. And so I would ask them, have you seen over the course of this year prices falling in various goods? Is that what you've seen? Because what he's saying is that removing the tax would have resulted in prices falling and so on,
Yeah.
or not much of a
Yeah.
cost of living, not as much of a cost of living
Because he's
spiral.
claiming that you benefited. He's
He's
claiming
claiming that you
he
benefited.
allocated a monetary sum that that you would have
But if
saved.
you received that benefit, you would have felt in the cost of living crisis that it wasn't as much of a crisis. But I know that you were suffering over the course of the year because it was very severe, So not only by their own figures, they shorten you $120,000 by their own figures, but
Now,
even
now
those figures are very questionable.
it has to be because listen, the average Guyanese works for what? 70,000 $70,000, maybe lower than that, maybe lower than that, much lower than that, if you consider all the factors and the different areas.
Yeah,
But so you're working, let's say $70,000, and that is your only source of income. That carries you through paycheck to paycheck. You live 70,000 January, 70,000 February. So how do we get to explain? You're the economist. How do you save $180,000 if you're working for 70,000? Is it that he's trying to say that you get not $2,000 if
that's basically what he's trying to say. That you're getting, I don't know, like a $10,000 and
the
every month.
propaganda, the
Based on,
propaganda?
yeah, that's the propaganda, right? But as we had indicated, you would feel that benefit every day when you go to supermarkets and shops and so on. And the fact that the
Yeah,
cost of
yeah,
prices is so
yeah.
severe. You're
Imagine
not.
you talking about the supermarket. Your short drop fare here in Region 2 is $200 to move from my home just to Regina, which is a village away. Imagine that is an increase of 100%.
Yeah,
Imagine you telling me about that $2,000 per month, that
exactly,
which
exactly.
not compensate for the inflation, the
And
rate
so
of
what we are saying is when it comes to this excess money, this excess 60 billion, this excess 30,000 per household, let's not beat around the bush and give our friends, family, and favorites and the business. Let's just give the people in a fair way the 300,000.
yeah,
So
yeah,
we know
without
that
any
they
discrimination.
without any discrimination. So we know that they got the revenue and they can then decide how they want to
Inside,
use it.
yes, yes,
You
yes,
know,
precisely.
yeah, let's stop pulling wool over people's eyes. Let's
Operator, let's pull up back that same the same slide so that we can look at it. Now, Elson, we would have, that we waited for 10,000 plus in old age pension. The pensioners would have only gotten a 3,000 and they boast about this. I want to deal with a number of them because time just running and we would be out of time. Um, we might need a little bit of extra time. The removal of income tax for low income earners. Low income earners. What
yeah.
level are we talking about? Just let us have
So
that
I'll
discussion.
give your viewers some perspective on it, so they can have a good sense of this. The first thing is anyone who is in a low tax bracket, which is basically anybody paying under $135,000, who is making less than $135,000. As it stands right now, we are saying that they should pay no income tax. Story is done. That we should move the tax threshold up to the $135,000 mark. The
Yeah.
next thing that we're saying is that on top of that, we should be giving people salary top ups as well as student stipends. And what that is going to mean is that effectively, there won't be anyone in Guyana who, once you're willing to work and you're working, who's making less than $150,000 a month. So we're saying that through various combining a couple of policies, not having to pay tax, as well as getting a top up on top of your salary, you really should be making about 150,000. And one of the things we want to highlight as well is, because a lot of young people might not be making that much money, is that virtually every young person who is now starting out to get a job and so on in an entry level position will not be paying income tax. On your slide, you also have, and this is all part of the measures to help people, you also have that water and electricity that
Yeah.
we're going to ensure that those whose water and electricity bills are below a certain level, which is the people lower income people, that you are not paying water and electricity. So what that means also for younger people who tend not to have as high bills is that you will not be paying water and electricity. And so what we are talking about is not a little 25,000 here and there. We are saying that shortly after we are in office, we will eradicate poverty in this country. We will cut it out shortly after we're in office. And we're saying that right now, these things can be done to eradicate poverty. It is the government that has chosen not to do these things because it is not that it cannot be afforded. I've already checked, and we could easily afford the policies that we want to put forward out of even this existing budget, and next year's budget, I'm sure, will be larger. So, when it comes to you living a comfortable life as a young person, when it comes to you living a comfortable life as a person who does not have as high of an income, a typical Guyanese, you will be living comfortably under on the APNU coalition. You will be living comfortably pretty much immediately because we're going to put these policies in place, and the money is already there for these policies. This is not pie in the sky dream. This is something that can be done in short order. But but PAP is happy to have you punish, and give you a little $5 here, a little $5 there, and hope that you're gonna take that and cool off. Folks, we reiterate, we remind, we want you to understand the country is rich. It's not that the country has some money, the country is rich. This country has more barrels of oil per person than Saudi Arabia, more than Saudi Arabia, more than Dubai, more than all these places in the Middle East where you see in all of these incredible buildings and so on and so forth. More barrels of oil per person than them. Don't let anyone sell you the lie that you have to live a life of poverty. That is not true. And we will ensure that no one is living a life of suffering and hardship in this country. Once you're willing to work, you will be comfortable. You'll be able to enjoy live in a nice place. You have a nice car. You live in happily with your family. You will be taken care of in this country once you're willing to work and give your efforts to the national movement as we try to build Guyana. And as the country continues to produce and we produce more and more, you can expect to receive more and more. As public servants, you can expect to receive more. You can expect to see your salaries become amongst the best salaries in the world, your facilities amongst the best in the world, your education system amongst the best in the world. That is the expect what you should expect given the resources that are available. And you should reject any government that tells you, oh, yeah, you have to put up with this, and we can't, and there is no money, which is what the people likes to say all the time. There's no money, there's no money. Don't fall for that. It is really now about us spending the money wisely, about us ensuring that we don't have inequality and so everyone is able to benefit. And it is not about this narrative that people have to punish, and Guyana is there isn't that bright future ahead and bright present. This is a place where we are going to deliver. The coalition is going to deliver a bright future and a bright today for the average Guyanese. So that is, I think, really, I think the narrative that we put together over the course of the years to help people to understand this. I think it's a vital narrative given what is going on and the PP's effort to play down the oil resources. And I think it's a narrative that should give Guyanese confidence going forward and a sense of optimism going forward that this will be one of the best countries to live in that you could possibly imagine. That is where our minds are at, and that's the struggle that we're going to continue to push.
Yeah, thanks, Elson. Just a quick thought. I had a number of other slides, but of course we'll have to save them for for the new year. What are your thoughts? You and I are both young people, and we've progressed within our party very quickly, right there to the top. Um, I just wanted to share some quickly, in a nutshell, our policies on youth and where we want to see, how we want to see youth progress. Two or three areas. I know that is a topic that we will have to discuss in the upcoming year. But
Yeah,
if we can give, for the sake of the many youths I see on this program tonight, give them an
yeah,
idea, because the focus tend to be on these programs a lot for general, but
yeah.
let's
Yeah,
just have some specifics on youth.
absolutely. Well, one of the things I like to say a lot when we talk about youth issues is, we young people say, the girls them say broke man got a left behind. Well, I'm not advocating that, but broke thinking, broke thinking got a left behind, and these guys are all about broke thinking. We are out here to give young people opportunities. We are out here to build them up. We want young people in this country to be earning the big bucks, to be able to drive a nice car, to be able to have a nice home, have a comfortable existence with their family. We want young people to have that, and our policies speak to that. So when we talk about a student stipend, what we are saying is we want to give you some funds to go and study so that you can qualify yourself, so you can get the best possible job. And we're going to give you money to help you to compensate for whatever expenses students face, and so that you have a little bit of pocket change and so on, because we know that it's difficult when you're studying. We want to incentivize people to go back and study. That is one of the things that we are talking about for young people. When we talk about the University of Guyana being free and free immediately, it is with an eye towards people going and attending and getting degrees so they can get high paying jobs. That is 100% the core of it. When we talk about salary top ups and everyone earning at least $150,000 a base, we want to ensure that while young people are bettering themselves and moving their lives forward, those same young people are able to be comfortable and not be punishing on in with starvation wages. So you'll immediately be comfortable. But we're building a pathway now for you to get qualified to get high paying jobs. And when we talk about our education system that we believe needs to be put in place, it is a comprehensive system that will look at skills training, that will look at technical skills, that will look at math and English, because we know that a lot of people may need to go back and get their qualifications in those areas if they want to go forward, if they want to do more of office jobs and so on. In the oil and gas sector, we're going to have a heavy focus on training in the oil and gas sector, including working along with oil and gas companies for young people to get internships, paid internships where they can work along with oil companies to learn so they can get these high paying jobs. Nowhere in our thinking is this broke approach that PUP has. When we see that they're giving out this $40,000 part-time jobs, and we are thinking to ourselves, folks, as much as we want to see people receive some help in this cost of living crisis, you mean to tell me that the PUP couldn't say, listen, y'all go, you young people go and get some training and we'll give you $40,000 as a stipend? That that is so basic and so obvious that it details the way that they think about young people. They are not thinking about young people in terms of empowering them and getting them to a
Yeah.
position where they can get a high paying job. They are thinking about holding down young people by giving them a temporary job with 40,000 that can't really help you in the long term, can barely help you. Broke thinking got a left behind. The PUP got a left behind, because if you follow them,
Yeah.
you never make any progress in your life. That is not what we're talking about.
Operator, we're winding down slide number 18. We'll just take slide number 18. It's 1 minute, 2 minute or so, and that would be our program. Slide number 18. Got a big slash in the middle. Can't miss it. Slide number 18. Folks, we're winding the curtains down on this program this evening. I'm just awaiting the operator to get that slide. Slide number 18. No, the one before that. Maybe you got it in. All right, good. So your thoughts on this, Elson.
I
Just a
mean,
picture can tell 1,000 words. We don't have time for 1,000 words. We're talking about the standard of living. We're talking about people punishing. These fellas having a great time there, though. Their bread is well buttered,
well,
table filled,
yes,
pockets
exactly.
filled.
Well, what I would say to viewers, you really think that Sherwin and I are going to be dancing up and enjoying ourselves knowing full well that people out there punishing? You really think that that's what, that is not gonna happen? We are going to do everything in our power. And once we believe that we've done everything in our power and spent every cent that can be spent and put every energy that can be put forward, then you'll see us dance. But not in the midst of the greatest
Yeah,
cost of
yeah.
living crisis
You
in
dance
40
for the
years.
people. Yeah,
This is as
yeah,
bad as it's
yeah,
been when
yeah.
it comes to difficult times for poor people, for different difficult times for the average Guyanese. In 40 years, this is the worst cost of living crisis, and I've done virtually nothing
Yeah.
to really deal with it. This is not the time to be dancing around the place, and we will put every effort in before you see us celebrating and eating nice and relaxed about the place. Why? Because we're genuine, and we feel people's pain. When you hear us speak, you can tell from the way that we're speaking that we are concerned about people's everyday lives, that we're
And
worried that people are making ends
we
meet.
didn't come up with gold spoon, Elson. You and I didn't come up with gold spoon. We you know we came up through ordinary means. Parents struggled to put us through school, live pretty much ordinarily, and continue to live ordinarily. Maybe a little more comfortable, but very much ordinary, and we dwell amongst the ordinary people.
Well, I always say that on a basic human level, how can you look at this year with people crying out all year long and not feel, on a basic human level, a bit of sympathy? But these guys are so distracted, the PvP is so distracted by their own greed that they don't have time for sympathy. They don't have time for empathy. They don't have time to look at the poverty across the society. Poverty that we've already shown on this show we could eradicate today. Rather, their focus is on having a nice time. So, one of the other things we say as young people, go along brave. Let them continue to do it because
You say, every long rope got to
got it then, got it then.
Irfan to dance this year. Let's enjoy it while it lasts. And with that, folks, I want to thank Elson. Elson, you've been phenomenal, a phenomenal guest tonight and every time that I
Always
invite
happy
you
to
on
come
this
on.
program. Always sharing your insights, and especially from an economic standpoint. That's Equilibrium. That is why I like to have you on this um, on this program. I think we really had a good time tonight. I hope and trust that if the program was very informative. I hope that you got more than you came for tonight. And as I said, this is our last program for the year. So I join in wishing you uh, a Merry Christmas and a prosperous New Year, and trust that you will be back with us again as we venture into the New Year 2023. God bless and good night.